first thing I want to talk to you about is that we have this big problem, but it's also a massive opportunity in the marketing space. So it's inexplicable, but we marketers spend $92 on driving traffic for every $1 we spend trying to convert that traffic. So think about that. We are spending all of our resources, all of our marketing investments driving traffic to our websites, and then we're not investing in converting that traffic. It's crazy. It's a formula for lower leads, lower sales. And so, the good news is your competitors are probably in this bucket as well. Your competitors are probably putting all of their effort into driving traffic and putting very little effort into converting that traffic. And look, I run an agency and I've been in the marketing space forever. I've been in the marketing space since before Google existed. And I see this all over the place. I see it all the time. Whenever I'm meeting new companies, it's very standard that they are investing much more in driving traffic than driving conversions. So this is a real opportunity for you. It's a real strategic competitive advantage if you follow through on this. All right, so a little bit of background so you know where these recommendations are coming from. So I run a B2B organic growth agency. So everything is organic. It's content development, content marketing, SEO, conversion optimization, things like that. I'm the author of 2 books, Rethink Your Marketing and Rethink Lead Generation. This is Rethink Lead Generation, just came out a few months ago, and I'll be talking about this and giving you a special offer later in the session. And then I've also worked at an SEO agency where I was the 85th employee. And then we went through rethinking how we were doing our marketing and wound up going from 85 employees to over 700 in under 5 years. And then I've worked with a lot of different companies, startups, mid-sized companies, but also a couple of the biggest of the big. So Intel, GE, Hewlett-Packard, Procter & Gamble. And so I'll be relaying a lot of the learnings that I've had through the years to you today. All right, so let's get into it. Crazy effective methods for driving more leads. So one of my favorites is IP detection. This is the first thing that I look at every single morning is our IP detection analytics. So let me just see a raise of hands. How many of you use IP detection software? So 1? Okay. So hopefully this is going to be very actionable for you then, and something that will really help you. So I find it so valuable. Again, this is the very first thing that I do every single workday is I'll check the IP detection analytics. So what is IP detection? So what it is it will tell you who is visiting your website. And I have to preface this that it's really more for B2B, okay? This is a B2B software where you can tell which companies, which organizations are visiting your website. And so obviously what I want to do is I want to know who's been on our website over the past 24 hours. And then what we'll do is we'll do outreach to them immediately. And, we don't tell them, oh, hey, saw you on our website, because that's a little creepy. And, it's just ineffective marketing. Instead, don't be salesy, just be helpful, right? Clearly, they're looking for answers. Clearly, they're looking for help. And so if you just reach out and say, hey, can I answer any questions for you? You're being helpful. You're not being salesy in any way. It's a win-win, right? And it's very, very effective. We have generated over 7 figures in revenue just from this one channel alone, IP detection. So there was a company that came to our website, and we recognized them through the IP detection software. We could see that they came. We could see exactly which pages they were visiting. We could see exactly how long they were on each page. And then they came again, and then they came again. And then they came again, but they weren't converting on the site in the traditional sense. They weren't filling out a form, and they weren't calling us. And so IP detection software is a way for you to take those who are not converting on your website and still translate it into positive lead generation. So what did we do? We reached out to them. We engaged with them. We tracked what they were clicking on. And over the course of several conversations, it was about 2 months, they wound up becoming a really good customer. And so it's not necessarily that just because someone didn't, quote unquote, convert on your website, that it was a bad experience, that it was a bad site visit, that it was unqualified. right? That your website's not working. That's not true. I'm sure a lot of you, just like myself, we're not filling out forms all day, right? We go to a lot of websites. We don't fill out forms all day. We're not calling all these companies. And so IP detection software is a way for you to find a whole other channel, a whole other way of generating leads from all of this inactivity on your site. There are different software packages that you can use. The one that we're using right now is called Lead Feeder. And the pricing is based on how many leads you're tracking each month. We love the software. It's it's used by everyone in our company, and I would strongly recommend it. But there are other packages out there as well. Lead Forensics is very, very powerful. It's more expensive, but it's very powerful. So Lead Feeder and Lead Forensics, but there are many others. If you Google IP detection software or website visitor recognition software, things like that, you'll find maybe half a dozen different options for you. So let's get into the details. Let's say you dive into the software and you want to see exactly who's on your site and what they're doing. So here you can see an example of someone who's on the site. And what can we learn from this? Well, first they came in organically, and clearly they were searching on a blogging topic because they wound up landing on a blog post called ROI of Blogging. But then they also were checking out a B2B blogging playbook, and then they went back to the ROI of blogging. And so a lot of the pages that they kept on coming back to related to blogging. So when we do our outreach, guess what we're going to talk to them about? Blogging, right? So it's a fantastic way for you to connect with them on what they're interested in, what's top of mind for them immediately, right now, at this very moment, right? They're going to be very receptive. If you reach out and you say, hey, any questions on blogging? Is there anything that we can help you with blogging? Oftentimes they'll be like, hey, yes, actually, I'd love a conversation, right? And so it gets things off on a very natural, a very helpful, and a very win-win type of tone. Another thing that's very interesting to look at with the IP detection software is not only can you see which organizations are visiting your site, and you can see exactly which pages, and you can see their navigational path, and you can see how long they're on each page, but you can also see, oh, hey, there are multiple people at this company on our site right now. That's not a coincidence, right? I mean, how can 4 people, right, from the same company all be coming to our site all at the same time, right? It's because they're talking to each other, right? Well, if they're talking internally about us, we should definitely reach out, right? And so you can see how helpful this is. And and so I'd say if you're a B2B organization or you do B2B marketing, then this is very helpful. And I would recommend you at least test it out, at least try it out, because it is a fantastic way, as I said, to translate all the visits who are not converting on your site into potentially becoming leads. Okay. Next, I love looking at the audience, right? So IP detection software is totally looking at the audience. And then also, let's answer their questions. Let's make that a lead gen driver. And what do I mean by that? Well, the Russian psychologist Alfred Yarbus ran some really interesting eye tracking studies where he gathered a group of people, he separated them so that they couldn't see what the others were seeing. And one by one, he would show them a painting. And then he would ask them what they were seeing in the painting, right? And they would track the eye movement. But here's the thing. He would ask each individual a different question before revealing the painting. And so, for instance, if he asked one individual, how old do you think the people are in the painting? And then showed the painting, the middle pane is what they would look at. So this is eye tracking, right? So this is what they were looking at. They were looking at their faces, and they weren't looking anywhere else in the painting. They were just looking at their faces. And then if he asked, what's your status in society? That would be the one on the right. So you could see they were looking at what they were wearing, but not looking at their faces. So think about that. Same people, same time, same painting, same everything. The only thing that was different was, yes, the question that they had running through their mind at that exact time, that precise time. So what do you think is happening when people are coming to your website? They have questions in their mind. They're coming to get questions answered. And so if you have audience segmentation, if you have personas built out, maybe what you can do to take it to the next level is take each of those personas and say, okay, if they come to my homepage, what are the specific questions that they're asking in their head, right? Or if they come to this page or that blog post, what are the specific questions for that persona that's running through their mind? And then make sure that you're answering those questions, right? You might have to go back. You might have to optimize your pages. You might have to rewrite. You might have to reorganize what's top of page so that they see it right away, right? But each of your personas is probably asking different questions. And so document them. Document questions per persona based on the page that they're visiting, and you'll be able to capture more leads. Because if you treat everyone the same and you just treat it as a page and a page visit, obviously it's very random, right? It's very random. Don't leave it to randomness, right? You want to identify your audience segments. You want to identify your personas. You want to identify the very specific questions that each is asking. Now, there's a lot of personalization software out there that can do this, and a lot of it is pretty expensive. But there are very simple ways that you can do this as well. You can get them to self-segment themselves. So if we look at the software company, Asana, that's what they do. So what they'll do is they will have you select which department you belong to. So obviously, if you're in marketing, you're going to have very different questions. You're going to be looking for different answers than if you're in operations, or if you are in human resources, or if you're in IT. So let's just say, hypothetically, that you're in IT and you come to the Asana website and you click on IT. Everything on this page, everything is about IT and answering IT manager questions. So help desk requests, right? I mean, that's only applicable to IT, right? If you're in sales, has nothing to do with you, right? If you're in operations, has nothing to do with you. Or manage the IT process, manage IT projects, or, talking about tracking requests is something specifically that IT does. In marketing, we don't do that. How about off-track offboarding? Something only IT does, right? So what that is when an employee leaves your company, when they leave your company, there are a lot of security issues, right? Like, what do we do with all of their logins? What about their passwords, right? Like, what is the process for taking care of all of these safety protocols or security protocols, right? And so that's off-track offboarding, something that in marketing, we don't talk about. In sales, we don't talk about. In operations and HR, we don't talk about. But IT has to talk about it as high importance. So the page is very long, goes on and on and on. Even the testimonial on the page is about IT. Everything is very IT specific. So think back to the eye tracking studies, right? With Alfred Yarbus and his questions with the painting. It's exactly the same thing. What you're doing is you're trying to answer all of their particular questions. So another website that does this in a different way, but also a very useful way, and it's also self-segmentation, is they'll put you through a wizard. They'll ask you questions, and based on your answers, they'll provide you with different recommendations. So this is Marketing Automation Insider, and so it's a website for choosing marketing automation software. Easy enough. So you come to the site, but instead of just giving you options, what they'll do is they'll start asking you questions as to who you are, right? And based on who you are, then the website will feed personalized recommendations to you. So are you a small business? Are you an agency? Are you a large enterprise? Are you not for profit? Right? All have very, very different needs. And so it goes on and on through this wizard. And then you get recommendations. So I want you to take a minute right now. Let's make this very actionable, right? Let's get you results. Right? So right now, take the next 60 seconds, just pick one audience segment, pick one persona, pick a page on your site, whether it's the homepage, whether it's a white paper landing page, whatever it is. What are the very specific questions running through your site visitor's mind? And just take 60 seconds to document those. It's incredibly valuable. Okay, I think it's time for the orange cube. So who can share with us one persona and the page that you're thinking of and the questions running through their mind? Can we get a volunteer? Just one volunteer? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Holly Beth Wojcik.
Hi, Holly.
This is actually super actionable as we are actually redeveloping our brand website, and there are multiple audiences, multiple personas. We've just had this conversation 2 weeks ago. So one of them is retailers for a national distribution company, and our retailers, our customers are asking, how do I become a customer? What products, do you carry? What distribution centers, where are they? So there's so many questions, and again, so many audiences. So this is going to be super helpful.
Great. That's a great example. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So you can see how useful this is, right? Getting that granular with the questions that are running through the mind at precisely the time that they're hitting that page, right? Okay. So how else can we be generating leads from our content? So one thing that I'd like to strongly recommend to you is to engage in original research. Original research is exceptionally powerful in lead generation. There's so much content out there, and there's a lot of crap content out there, right? And you have to fight through it. You just necessarily have to fight through it. So how do you fight through it? One very effective way of doing that is with original research. And then we're also going to talk about how you then get even better results by atomizing that content. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's start with the power of original research. Okay, so here's a headline by BuzzSumo: What you need to write the best headlines 2021. Good blog post title? It's okay, right? Fine, no problem. But let's compare it to this. 100 million articles analyzed. What you need to write the best headlines. So much more powerful, right? I know that I would click on that. If I saw 100 million articles analyzed, it lends so much weight and credence to what they're doing. It lends so much validity to what they're doing. And, nowadays, if you type in how to write the best headlines, you're going to get millions of answers, right? Google's going to be cluttered with answers, but this really stands out. This differentiates itself in the search engine results pages. So it's a way for you to stand out. It's a way for you to really show that you know what you're talking about, that you've done your research, you've done more research than others. And it's a way for you to get them to click on your content as opposed to all the other stuff that's out there, right? It's more generic, it's more vague. Vague doesn't win in content marketing, right? Specificity wins, right? So the more specific we can be with our original research, the more we're going to get the click. So what are some of the benefits of original research? And by the way, so that example was from BuzzSumo. A while back, I had talked with the director of marketing at BuzzSumo, and they confirmed, hands down, whenever they did original research, it would blow away all of the other content that they were doing in terms of marketing results, in terms of traffic and eyeballs and page views and leads and whatever metric. They say whatever metric they looked at, original research was the gold standard. So lots and lots of benefits. So this is research done by BuzzSumo as well as Mantis Research. And what they found was that original research generates 55% more leads. 55%. I mean, right there, we can move on to the next slide. But there's more, right? More social sharing, 66%, more media mentions, 63%, increased backlinks, 60%, increased leads, as I mentioned, 55%, more mailing list subscribers, 43%, on and on and on. So many benefits. So it is more work, right? It is more work to do original research. It is a heavy lift at times, but it is so worth it if you want to drive leads. So, okay, this is me saying it, but how about what did the research say in terms of marketers who actually conducted original research? Did they find that it actually proved useful? Did it meet their expectations? And for 61% of them, it either fully met their expectations or exceeded their expectations. Then there was another 30% where it partially met their expectations. And so you have the majority where it's either meeting or exceeding their expectations, and then 30% more who are saying, yeah, some of our objectives were met. So very effective. So when you do this, when you are conducting original research, what you want to do is avoid the mistake that I see over and over and over again by companies. What do? They'll do all of this research, and then they'll come out with a report, they'll have a landing page, and they'll have maybe a press release, and then they'll do some social media posts. And that's it. It's such a waste. It is such a waste. There's so much more that you have to do. You have to become a promotion engine, right? And there's so many different ways that you can slice and dice the data and slice and dice the information in order to appeal to different types of learners, different types of readers, different types of consumers, different types of buyers, right? There's video, there's audio, there's, data visualizations, right? For those who are very visually oriented. So in my experience, the more that you do, if you do not only a report, but you also do a number of blog posts, not just one blog post, but a number of blog posts, you can tease it before it comes out, then you announce it when it comes out, then you follow up with excerpts, and then, you can do a webinar based on it. You can go on a roadshow based on this. You can visit all of your clients and conduct executive briefings, on and on and on. It's endless. It's endless, and it's very, very effective because it's original. No one can copy you. And the beautiful thing is, let's say that you determine that you're going to do it quarterly or you're going to do it annually, and guess what? You own that space in your industry, and no one can take it from you because everyone's going to immediately know that they're copying you. And so we've done this with various clients where we'll come out with an annual research report, right? An annual survey, right? If you do it quarterly or annually, it prevents others from entering that space, and you own it for as long as you want. It's magical. So with content atomization, yeah, you can do blogs, you can do infographics, you can do social sharing, you can do articles on other websites. You can partner with other websites and do co-marketing. You can do press releases, you can do presentations, you can do videos, webinars, quizzes, interactive content, on and on. One great example of this is chiefmartech.com. So Scott Brinker's marketing technology landscape. He's been doing this for years and years. When he started, I think the first year there were only 150 marketing technology products in the landscape. And now there are over 8,000. So I think he started maybe in 2014 or 2013. But he does this every year. So he owns this space. No one can take it from him, right? And everyone, when it comes out, he gets tons of backlinks, right? Because everyone wants to link to him. And everyone wants to talk about it. And he gets free publicity out of it. So he gets PR, he gets backlinks, he owns the space. No one can take it from him. It's very powerful stuff. So where can you be storing this data? Let's say you're not a developer. I'm not a developer. So what we do is we'll use an application like Airtable. We love Airtable. It's a database application, but if you can use Excel, Microsoft Excel, or you can use Google Sheets, you can use Airtable. That's the beauty of it. It's basically Excel turned into a powerful database. So it enables you to slice and dice the information in so many unique ways. It's so much more useful, and you can have endless amounts of data. Whereas, Google Sheets or Excel, at a certain point gets a little clunky when you have that much data. With a database, it's much more extensible. So to give you a concrete example of seeing this in action. So for one of our clients in the healthcare space, we ran a survey, and what we did was we reached out to the largest nursing website. So the survey was for nurses. So we reached out to the largest nursing website in the industry, had them post the survey there, and through that and a couple other means, we wound up getting 3,500 responses to the survey. And then we took those responses and we created reports. We created 2 slide shares. We created an infographic. We created 5 blog posts. We created endless amounts of content, and this got noticed. So who noticed it? Not someone who we intended. It was actually a TV producer. We didn't contact any TV channels or any TV shows or anything like that. And so a TV producer called up and said, hey, I want to talk to the CEO about this topic. This is really interesting. Can we have her on? So of course she went on national TV, and then another TV producer saw her, called up and said, hey, I want her on my show too. This happened 5 times within 12 months. And so when you do this, when you have original research, and again, the key is it has to be original, has to be yours, proprietary, right? And then you atomize it and you're everywhere, appealing to every type of audience member. This type of serendipitous occurrences can happen, right? And all of a sudden you're getting amazing PR that you didn't even plan for. So what's another way to generate more leads? Online tools. So online tools is hands down the best way to generate backlinks. If you're looking to generate more backlinks, I would strongly recommend that you look at creating an online tool. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be anything that takes you 3 years to develop. It can be quick. You can hire a contract developer to do it. Just something that's very, very useful. Something quick, something that's very useful. This is by CoSchedule. They have a headline analyzer. And so, of course, they get lots and lots of backlinks from this without even trying. Without even conducting outreach on it, they're able to attract many backlinks. And then the kicker on this is they also are able to generate leads out of this too, because before handing off the results, what they'll do is they'll ask for an email address. And, granted, some people might be turned off by this approach. It's up to you. Maybe your brand doesn't do this, but if you were interested, it's a very effective way of gathering emails. And then HubSpot has their persona creator. Same thing. If you want the results, then you can hand off your email. And WP Engine, the largest grouping of WordPress developers in the world. So they have a WordPress speed test or page load time test. And again, if you want the results, they'll email them to you. So you have to enter your email, and then you get the results, and you can set it up on a recurring basis. So if you want the results every day, you can get them every day. If you want them every week, you can get them every week. Very clever. So take a minute, take 60 seconds, because this is so powerful. I want you to really consider it. What's an online tool that your business could be offering? Okay, so let's go back to the orange cube. Anyone want to share what tool they're envisioning? Just one person, just one.
Well, my organization's in workforce development, and we actually do this human-wise, but we could offer a online tool analyzing resumes.
Absolutely. Great idea. Love it. A+. Anyone else?
Right. So I work in the healthcare industry. We sell products for mammography, and we have products that apply to different types of imaging units that they have. And I think it would be great for us to be able to offer an online selector, based on what you're using, what your radiologist preferences are. And that way they can, really lead themselves to the correct markers rather than having to read the descriptions of each and every one that we have on our website. So I think that's an awesome idea. Great takeaway for me.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. And any website, where there are a lot of options like med tech, absolutely. Yeah, and especially something as complex as that, where you really do need to know the details. Yeah, having a selector tool is a great idea. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Very effective. Great. All right, thank you. And Russ, can I just ask for a time check? Okay, great. Thanks. So next, I want to talk to you about behavioral intelligence. I love behavioral intelligence. I am a behavioral intelligence nerd. I will spend days on this stuff. So what behavioral intelligence is okay, you probably use Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics. Yes, hands? Yep, so pretty much everyone. So what Google Analytics or what Adobe Analytics won't tell you is the experience, right? They'll tell you, oh, did someone visit this page or did 10 people visit this page? Well, did they get what they were looking for? Were they frustrated? Was there any friction, right? Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics, it's very difficult getting that information out of it. And so what behavioral intelligence does is it helps you understand the experience that they actually have on your website and on individual pages and in individual paragraphs of your content. It gets that granular. It can even tell you whether people are seeing a CTA, not seeing a CTA, whether they're clicking on the CTA or not. Very, very valuable. It takes all of your website analytics and it just puts it all on steroids. So let's look at scroll mapping first. So that's how far down the page are they scrolling? And what you can see here is each of these rows is a different page in the client's website. The top row is the home page, and then the bottom rows are inside pages, right? So for the inside pages, 76%, 77%, 64%, 76%. These are really high numbers. We were so excited to see this, right? And you might say, Tom, look at the homepage, right? It's only 40%. The homepage sucks. It's failing. You better do something about it. But think about it. We have to think about this more granular, right? The homepage is meant to drive them to an inside page. The homepage is about everything. It's about everything, right? So we have to figure out, just like the selector tool, right? We have to figure out where they should go so that they have the most relevant, contextually relevant experience for them, right? What are those specific questions that they have running through their minds? How can we guide them to those answers as quickly as possible? So we were actually very happy with the 40% because, and you'll see, we also want to look at click analysis, right? And make sure that they are clicking through. And as long as they are, then this is a fantastic result. The homepage is doing its job and the inside pages are also doing their job, just in very different ways. Here's an example where we wanted to see, for this specific call to action, we wanted to see, okay, what percentage of people who come to this page even see it, right? How many people even see the CTA? And this is great. If you have a very important CTA that you're pushing, that you need to be reporting on the results for a certain campaign, it's fantastic to have the scroll and the click data, because that tells you exactly whether people are even seeing your campaign. So in this case, on this particular page, 62% of the people who come to this particular page are seeing this CTA. So, you might be happy with that. You might not be. Obviously, if it's 20%, if it's 25%, that's a red flag, right? Like that's bad. And you probably want to move the CTA higher up on the page, right? Or you want to reconfigure the content at the top of the page to drive more scrolling, drive more engagement, right? And so there are different options of what you can do, but this gives you the data to know whether they're even seeing it or not. So let's also look, at click and heat mapping. So this is, where are they clicking, right? And where is their attention? Where are they hovering? Where are they spending their time on the page? Because they might spend all their time at the top of the page, or they might scroll very quickly and glide through and then maybe stop, pay attention to a paragraph midway through, keep scrolling, then go back up. It's not very logical. It's not logical. Everyone just comes and the behavior is whatever is on their mind at that time. It goes back to the eye tracking studies, right? People just have very specific questions running through their minds, and that's what they're interested in. And so the behavior you're going to see can differ person to person, or segment to segment, or persona to persona. So let's say that we're looking at a blog post, for example, right? A simple blog post. And what cracks me up is I know a lot of companies that use behavioral intelligence software, and they'll only use it on their product pages or their homepage, and they won't use it in their content. But if you want better content performance, if you want more leads out of your content, right? If you want better content results, you need to be applying it to your content. You need to be studying the data in your content. And so in a blog post, for example, a simple blog post, we're seeing that there's a lot of attention on the authenticity paragraph. So what we can learn here is, either we can create additional blog posts about authenticity and link over to those, right, to create more engagement, or we can create a deeper dive download, offer it right here, or we can move this up the page, right? There's so many different ways to play this. The whole idea is learn what they're interested in and then give it to them, right? Learn what they want and then give it to them. That's all we're trying to do. And so it's fantastic for your content performance. Now, sometimes, unfortunately, people have a bad experience on the site or they run into friction, right? It's just not a smooth experience. It's not an intuitive experience. And so with this software, what you can do with bird's eye view within 10 seconds, you can see every page in the site that is delivering a good user experience and every page in the site that's delivering friction, that is delivering some type of a problem, some type of frustration. And so this is a fantastic way. If you're looking to attack problem pages on your website, this is a great way to do it. You can see where are the unhappy site visitors and then go and optimize those pages, redesign those pages, make them a better experience, right? So it helps you prioritize where you can impact things. So what is an unhappy site visitor? Like, what is friction? Well, there are different things. One, it could be something like rage clicking. So this is something I'm sure all of us have done where, we click and hey, nothing happened. We click again, nothing happened. We click and click and click and we click 1,000 times, right? So that's rage clicking. Clickers, where you click and the wrong thing happens, right? It takes you to the wrong page or it doesn't take you anywhere. It's a broken link. And a mouse out is where, for instance, your cursor leaves the screen. So what does that mean? Well, we think with our cursor, and so it probably means you're talking with a colleague or you went to get a cup of coffee or you're just not paying attention to this content, right? And so obviously from a content performance perspective, that's bad if they're not paying attention to the content. That's not a good thing. That's not a happy reader. And so these are examples of what friction might look like in a website that you're dealing with. Another fantastic way to use behavioral intelligence is session recording. So these are actual video recordings. It is mind-blowing. You can actually see, you can't see them, right? You can't see their faces, but you can see their screens. You can see everything that's happening on their screens, and it's amazing. And so, for instance, someone comes to the site and they go to one page and then another, and you see what they're, how long they're spending on each element on every page. You see what they're clicking on. You see where they're confused. You see where everything's intuitive and they're flying through the process. So what is this? This is an actual video recording where you're seeing the cursor movement, okay? So in this case, typically what we see with our blogs, so this is an example of a Stratabeat blog, and typically with our blog posts, what we see is very vertical motion, very vertical behavior, meaning people go down the page and then they go up the page and then they go down the page and then they go up the page and then they go down the page. Very, very common behavior with blog posts, right? Because you're reading, but then you've just read something that sparked an interest in something that you just read, but you forget what it was and you want to go back and check it. Or, you just want to check something that's higher on the page, but then go back down. And so we see that all the time. So this was really puzzling when we came across it. We were like, what the heck kind of behavior is this? This is berserk. The person was going berserk. Their cursor was going all over the place. Cursor was going up, it was going down, it was going horizontally, it was going diagonally. And it took us a while to figure out. But when we analyzed a bunch of different blog posts, what we found was when we had videos that were engaging, that people were interested in clicking on and watching, we saw the same behavior. And so what we found was by having the videos, people were more engaged in the content. Because again, the cursor, people think through their cursor, right? If they're moving in and they're moving out and they're moving sideways, their cursor's moving with them. And so it's just a demonstration of them being more engaged in this part of the page. And so what's the lesson here? More videos, right? Need more videos because this gets them engaged. This is where they stop and where they spend a lot of time, and they're really engaged. So a lot of fantastic tools. We use Mouseflow a lot. A lot of people use Hotjar. We've used it a lot in the past. Full Story has a fantastic reputation. VWO, we've used a lot. Decibel is more if you're like a multinational corporation. If you're a multi-billion-dollar company, then you would use Decibel. Very, very robust, very powerful, but also very, very expensive. Whereas these others are more affordable for a small or a mid-sized business. So I would recommend all of them, honestly. Just use behavioral intelligence to improve your content performance and to improve your website performance overall. Why wouldn't you, right? Why wouldn't you? This data is at your fingertips. It's super easy. How long do you think it takes to get this up and running? Anyone? Think it takes a month? A week? A day? How about 3 seconds? Yeah, 3 seconds. It takes 3 seconds to get this implemented. It's just one code snippet, boom, applies to your whole website, right? So this is not a big lift. This is easy. And you might have to convince your developers how easy of a lift this is, but we love it. And in terms of improving your content performance for higher leads, it's just undeniable. Now, when you do this, what are the biggest mistakes that people make? They just look at all the data in aggregate. You can't do that. You can't do that. First-time visitors to a site need to be segmented, right? So they're coming to your site for the first time. They don't know how to navigate around, and so they're going to show different behavior, different digital body language as they're going through your site than someone who's been on your site 5 times, and they're just zipping through things, right? And so you have to segment by first-time visitors versus returning visitors. Also, you might want to segment by geography. If your audience is primarily in the United States, segment out everything else, right? Like just look at those from the US and look at their behavior, because someone's behavior could be tied somewhat to their culture, right? And so if you're looking at someone in the US and you're comparing it to someone, say, in Brazil compared to someone in Japan versus someone in China, it could be very different behaviors, but doesn't necessarily mean that you need to completely redo and redesign your website, right? You need to know who you're targeting, who your primary audiences are, and what the data is telling you specifically. Is it telling you this is the behavior from US site visitors? Okay, then that's much more useful than just having aggregate data. So still on the topic of behavior, I love behaviorally triggered CTAs. I love behavioral marketing, period. But behaviorally triggered CTAs are really powerful. Much more powerful. If you have static CTAs, I can almost guarantee you that if you test behavioral CTAs instead, you'll wind up uncovering combinations that will increase your conversion rate. Okay? Might not be with the first test, right? It's all about testing. Might not happen with the first test, but eventually you'll have much more potential. So this is a CTA that we have in our blog, so the Stratabeat blog, right? So if you scroll down about 70% of a blog post, and our posts are very, very long. So let's say you're scrolling 70% down a 2,000 or 3,000, 4,000 word blog post. To us, that means you're engaged. You probably like what you're reading, and so you might be interested in joining our mailing list to get more of this type of content. And so we don't show them this CTA, or at least in this specific test, we didn't show them the CTA until they had gone 70% down the page. So we're hitting them at the time that their digital body language is showing us that they'll be receptive to the CTA, right? If we hit them with the CTA when they're only 10% down the page, they haven't shown us anything. Their digital body language has yet to reveal itself, right? And so we're just guessing at that point. We don't want to guess, right? So we want this behaviorally triggered. With that one test alone, we increased our conversion rate for the mail-in opt-ins by 300% with that one test alone. So I'm not saying that every test is going to produce results like this. Some might produce results of 10%, 20%, 100%. But, on the other hand, some might produce results of 1,000%. So you just have to test and test and test. We're constantly testing on our website. We're constantly testing on our clients' websites. Again, all around behavioral marketing, whether that's what page did they visit prior to coming here, or how far down did they scroll? How much time have they spent on this page? It might be, what did they click on first, right? On a different page. It might be, we showed them a CTA over here. They didn't click. So we're going to show them a different CTA over here, right? Lots and lots of opportunities for behavioral marketing that's very, very effective. Okay, contextual CTAs. So with contextual CTAs, what we're talking about is whatever is on that specific page, the CTA should be contextually relevant to that specific topic. And so if you're an agency and your client is running static CTAs and it's the same CTA across pages, stop doing that. I would strongly recommend that you stop doing that because it's not very effective. And I'm sure that probably is reflective in some results that you're seeing, right? So the way that you improve your click-through rate, the way that your CTAs perform much better is when they are 100% contextually relevant to that specific page, and to even go further, that specific point in the page. So let's take a look at this. So transforming your blog into a lead generation engine. So this is all about lead generation, right? So what is the major CTA, the visual CTA at the end of the post? Ready to drive more leads. It's very specific. It's hyper specific to what the page is about. You can even see a text-based inline CTA above it. And I do recommend having multiple CTAs on the page. You definitely want to have multiple CTAs. Sometimes people are not ready to click at the top of the page or in the middle of the page, or sometimes you just don't know what they want to click on. And so you can offer case studies. You can offer, hey, check out other related blog posts, or you can say, hey, check out this deep dive white paper on this very topic, or check out this video, right? So offer them different options, because depending on when it is, depending on who it is, they might have a different preference and they're very willing to click, but maybe you're just not offering that specific CTA. So definitely offer multiple CTAs on the page with different offerings, and some visual, some text-based, right? Mix it up. You never know. Yeah, so this is another example of an inline text-based CTA. Again, drive greater traffic and leads through your blog. Very, very contextually relevant to this specific blog post. All right, exit intent CTAs. So on the topic of CTAs, another great thing to do is exit intent CTAs if you feel that it's appropriate for your organization. Now, with a lot of organizations, they shy away from it because they feel that it's very intrusive to the site visitor. This is where the person is trying to leave your website, their cursor breaks the plane of the browser, and all of a sudden you get a pop-up offering you something, or the screen changes and offers you something. For certain businesses, that's fantastic. It's great. For other businesses, people will feel like you're a very cheap brand, right? It totally depends on your industry, your business. So I'm not saying that this is a universal truth. I'm not saying that you should universally just do it. You have to be sensitive to your audience and how they're going to respond to it, whether it's going to resonate with them or piss them off, quite honestly. So if your audience is very receptive to this type of messaging, that they're fine being offered, deeper dive white papers or offers to sign up for a tool or get a free demo or whatever it might happen to be, then here's a great example of what you can do. Don't just offer them something. Give them the option that, hey, we're offering you this. We think that you should do this next, but we realize that probably 99% of you aren't going to do it, right? So, hey, no problem. If you just have questions, just let us know and we'll be happy to answer your questions. That is brilliant, right? Because instead of offering them and making it feel salesy, all of a sudden it's helpful, right? Obviously they have questions. They're on your site, they're clicking around. Everyone has questions. I have questions all the time, right? We just all have questions all the time when we're on a website. This is a great way to just very gently get their email address in a very soft, helpful way. So I love this example. Okay, so we've been talking about behavior a lot. We've been talking about CTAs a lot. Let's talk about neuroscience for a minute. So if you look at the human brain, we are creatures of the subconscious. Your audience, your site visitors are creatures of the subconscious. 11 million bits of sensory information on a subconscious level runs through your brain every single second. 11 million bits of sensory information on a subconscious level. How about on a conscious level, on a logical thinking level? Maybe 40 to 60. Think about that, 11 million versus 40 to 60. We are creatures of the subconscious. When your site visitors are on your site, the way you're going to get them to convert is to appeal to the subconscious. That is the most powerful way to drive conversions and drive leads from your content. And so if you're just writing content and you're thinking, oh, this is accurate, this is good content, it's not enough. It's not enough. We need to think, okay, subconsciously, how am I going to connect with them more deeply, right? How am I going to engage with them? How am I going to drive them to the actions that matter most? And it's all through neuroscience, right? So one example I'll give you is emotions. So the neuroscientist Antonio Damasio ran studies of people who had damage to the part of the brain that triggers emotions. In other words, these people couldn't feel happy, they couldn't feel sad, they couldn't feel angry, but they were fully functioning adults. You could run into them in the street, you might be working with them, and you wouldn't know that they have this problem. So what was interesting was he started studying them, and he found that they had an extremely, extremely difficult time making any decision, including purchase decisions, because they couldn't feel strongly enough about any one option versus any other option. Even something as stupid as, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Hey, do you want meatloaf or do you want salmon? They'd be like, well, meatloaf tastes great. I love meatloaf, but salmon is so healthy. It is so healthy. But meatloaf, I mean, I think of my grandma when I eat meatloaf, it's just the best. But salmon, going back and forth and back, they waffle forever. And so they can't make decisions. And the same thing with a purchase decision. So this, very interestingly, is not just with people who have this affliction where they can't feel emotions. If you reverse engineer this, what we're learning is decisions are based off of emotions. If you don't have emotions, you can't make decisions. You can't make purchase decisions. So decisions are based off of emotions, and then we rationalize them afterwards. And I'm sure if you take a step back and you think about your own purchases as well, all of us want to think, oh, I'm so logical. No company could ever persuade me. They couldn't influence me. But take a step back and just go through the steps, right? And typically, you will have been emotionally influenced. So you influenced yourself, right? Your emotions drove you towards a decision. You wanted to make a certain decision, and then you rationalized why it was the best decision, right? So it's very, very interesting. So what you want to do is you want to evoke an emotional response out of your site visitors. If you are not evoking an emotional response from your blog posts, from your videos, from your podcast, whatever content it is, right? Guess what? Your conversion is going to drop. So with any piece of content, and I don't care if you sell to developers. I've heard this argument forever. Oh, well, we're a company that sells to developers, software developers, and they don't react emotionally to stuff like that. Yes, they do. Every human being does. And so some more than others, certainly. But every human being carries the human brain, which responds this way. We're all creatures of the subconscious. Okay, quick summary. So we just walked through this lead generation framework, right? We looked at the audience, right? And IP detection, remember, asking specific questions, persona by persona. We looked at how to make use of your content in order to drive more leads. We looked at behavior, right? We looked at a lot of different facets of behavior in driving more leads. We looked at neuroscience just now, and we looked at CTAs. So hopefully you can take this framework, and you don't have to do everything, right? You don't have to do everything, but just start trying this week, get going, get the momentum going, and just start testing. So this is my request to you. Come up with a 30-day plan. I'm sure a lot of you have been to marketing conferences like this in the past, right? And you get a lot of advice, a lot of recommendations, and you're writing notes, and you have like 20 pages of notes coming out of the conference, but then nothing ever gets done, right? Nothing ever gets executed on. And this is a very, very common thing, right? Why? Because we're all busy, right? We get busy. We go back to our jobs and we get busy, and we don't implement everything that we learn. So what I want you to do is create a 30-day plan. right here, right now, so that you make this happen and you get more leads. So answer these questions. What specific actions are you going to take out of the framework, right? We provided 12 or 13 different options for you to increase your leads, get more content, get more performance out of your content, right? So what specifically are you going to do? And then by when, right? We have to have a deadline. Otherwise it's not going to happen. And then who needs to be involved? It might not be you, or it might be you and several others, right? So who needs to be involved? And then what budget is required? And then how will you measure success? So measuring success is very, very important, right? So make sure you go through all of these. What action will you take? By when? Who needs to be involved? What budget is required? And how will you measure success? And so I encourage all of you to do this, because you'll get so much more, not only out of this session, but out of the entire conference if you do this at the end of every session. And then you're going to have a lot of ideas, right? How do you pick the best ones? I strongly recommend this decision matrix. So we use this all the time, because sometimes we have like 2 pages of options that we're juggling and figuring out what to go with, right? So what I want you to do is list all of your ideas in the left column, right? So I want to test contextually relevant CTAs. I want to test behaviorally triggered CTAs. I want to test behavioral intelligence software. I want to test IP detection software, checking it every day, right? Lots of ideas. Then judge it and measure it, judge it and assess it based on speed, based on ease of implementation, based on cost, based on realistically how many leads or how much revenue or whatever metric you want to apply, but conversions, right? Like how many conversions am I going to get? And then what's the ROI? So ROI is looking at all the benefits, all the performance that you're going to generate against the cost, right? So do all of this, and I think what you'll find is that decision-making becomes really easy. It becomes obvious, right? If you have a trade show coming up, right, then obviously speed is of the essence, and you can't consider anything that's a red box, right, that won't meet that specific objective. Or if you have all the time in the world and you're looking for long-form blog posts, then speed doesn't necessarily matter as much, right? And then maybe you're looking at, okay, well, cost versus the number of leads we're going to get, right? But this makes it ridiculously easy for you to choose among many, many possible marketing ideas. So I mentioned that I wrote a book, Rethink Lead Generation, all about organic ways of driving leads, SEO, content development, account-based marketing, referrals, things like that. And if you want a free chapter, just go to tomshapiro.com/download/DigiMarcon. But I offered this at DigiMarcon in Philadelphia, and I also want to offer it to you. If anyone wants the entire book for free, just come on up, give me your business card, or tell me how to get it to you, and I will send it to you. Just because you're at DigiMarcon. All right. So how are we doing on time? Okay, great. So yeah, any questions? I'd be happy to answer anything that's on your mind.
Oh, sure. Could you give me some examples of organic research, more specific?
So organic research, or do you mean original research?
Yeah.
Original research? Okay. So original research can be anything. It can be surveying your existing email list and just gathering the data and analyzing that data. Or you can conduct surveys to the industry at large, right? Where, for instance, the example that I gave was we partnered with a nursing website, the largest nursing website in the country, and they were promoting the survey, right? So that gets in front of many, many more people than we could have by ourselves, right? Or you can look at publicly available data, right? That's fine as well. So if you know Barbara Corcoran, so she started, she's on Shark Tank. The way that her business really took off was she was a realtor, but there are millions and millions of realtors in Manhattan, right? So there was nothing distinguishable about her. But she took publicly available data, turned it into a trends report, a Manhattan real estate trends report, and came out with it every quarter. Guess who asked her to talk about it? CNN. So she gets on CNN and then goes on every quarter right? Then other TV channels, stations want her on as well. Then newspapers want her, and it takes off. So it can even be publicly available data as long as no one has packaged it that way. No one has made sense of it. So does that help? Okay. Any other questions?
Is there no other? Maybe some of my questions will spark some more because I've got a bunch. So I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Okay, firstly, the IP detection software, right? So lead feeder, lead forensics. Let's say you have that situation where they go to your site, they check it out 24 times on a bunch of different pages. You've got their IP address. How specifically do you execute on that outreach? Are we talking phone, email? Who are you going to directly? I'm just curious about the actual execution of that tactic.
Right. So if they are not in your CRM database, right, then the information you'll get is which company they're at, which organization. And so it comes down to if you know exactly who you're targeting at organizations and who likely would be on your website. And so what we do is we go after the head of marketing, right? And so if we see a company is on our website, we'll go into LinkedIn, we'll go to that company's page, and we'll find the head of marketing. And if there's several people, we'll reach out to several people who we feel could have been on the site realistically, right? Mm-hmm. And all we're doing is we're saying, hey, could we help you with any questions you might have about blogging or any other digital marketing? We'll cater it to exactly what they were looking to do, what content they were looking at. So for us, it's going into LinkedIn. Then we use a software called hunter.io to uncover the email address. There are many, many different software packages to uncover email addresses, but we use hunter.io. It also has an email validator. So before you send the email, it can validate whether it's a real email or not and whether it's going to go through or not. So we always do that email validation first. But again, there are lots of applications that do that if you just Google around. And that's how we do it, and it's been very successful. I find LinkedIn to be a great source because people keep their LinkedIn profile up to date. If you try and purchase an email list, oh my God, like half of them have already left the company, right? With LinkedIn, it's very reliable because people keep their LinkedIn page very up to date.
Cool. Just on that, it sounds like you wouldn't directly call out the fact that you know they were on your site. You're just more sort of coming in from that angle of speaking to the content they asked about, as opposed to going, hey, we know you're on our site. Is that true?
That is true. We never, ever mentioned that we saw them on our website.
Yep.
It's a little creepy.
It is, yeah. Okay, cool.
So what we do instead is we just try and be helpful. We never, ever try and sell them anything. Never. We never mention, oh, let's talk about our services. Oh, we can help you. No. Just all we want to do is just, can we answer any questions you have? Or, are you interested in learning more about SEO? Are you interested in learning more about behavioral intelligence, right? Just be helpful. And amazing things happen when you just try and be helpful.
Excellent. Another question around where you talked about documenting cues per persona. I'm trying to think. You mentioned something about documenting questions per persona.
Yeah, so the questions that are running through their mind.
Yes. Yep.
Right, per persona to persona, right? So one persona might have certain questions running through their mind as they hit your homepage.
That's right. This was the engagement
piece. A different
piece.
persona might have very different questions.
Yep.
And as we saw with Alfred Yarbus's eye tracking studies, depending on the questions that they're asking in their mind, they're going to consume your web pages very differently. They're going to see different things in your website and ignore different things. And that's really important to understand, because if the top of your page is filled with stuff that a certain persona is going to ignore, guess what? Right?
And do you have any specific tools, or are we just talking about documenting it in like a Google Doc, or is there any specific tools that you'd recommend documenting that into?
So yeah, we love Airtable, and
yep.
So there's so much that you can do with the database beyond Excel or Google Sheets. But as long as you're collecting the insights, it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as you're finding the insights valuable, then that's fantastic, right? So if you're very comfortable in Google Docs or Google Sheets, do it. Like, you don't have to make it more complicated than it is, right? And if that's how you're going to make it actionable, do it the easiest way possible for you.
Excellent. Got one more. Has anyone else got questions? Are these sparking any other? Yes, we've got one over here. I won't hog this. Hold on.
Thank you. With the behavioral triggered CTAs, I know some companies will just put a CTA right up top because they want you to make a move, but do you suggest kind of, I mean, you talked about like grabbing them with content, interesting content, and actually even going, 75% down the page to make sure it's a better lead that way? Is that what you're saying? Like, what's the best way to? That's
exactly what we're saying is do not just hit them with things before you've seen their behaviors, right? So think of like, if you're here, right, and you go up and you talk to someone, you're checking out their body language, right? And you can tell whether they want to talk or whether they don't want to talk, whether they really want to talk or whether, maybe they need to run and catch a phone call, right? You can see all that through through your body language, right? What drives me mad is that a lot of marketers don't look at digital body language before engaging, right? But of course you should. We're all human beings, right? Your site visitors are human beings. It's no different than in person. So make sure that they're displaying the digital body language, that you're looking for, and then give them the precise CTA that aligns with that behavior. For example, you can do that with going down the page, and if they're showing you a lot of engagement that they really like it, then hit them up with a harder hitting CTA, like, sign up for my mailing list, right? Or, hey, catch this webinar about this topic. You can register right here. Or if they came to a certain page, they left, and then they came back to your site another day, you can have retargeting CTAs, right? You know that they left, right? So why don't you hit them up with a different CTA this time? Try different language, different messaging, and just test something else instead of just showing them the same stuff over and over and over, right? It's the same with, even if it's not retargeting where they left your site, but retargeting within your site. So let's say they went to a page, you have a CTA pop up and they don't click on it, but then they stay on your site and they go to a different page. You can have a behaviorally triggered CTA show, and you know that they didn't click on the first one, so show a different CTA. Might be related, right? Might be related, but show a different one. And that's going to be more effective than just having a CTA pop up at the top of the page when you first land on it.